So one of the key elements of our program is going to be tracking overall intensities, loads, average loads, and the peak loads that you achieve throughout training and different movement patterns in particular. So we want to track those things. And one of the ways that we do this and overall manage workload, which is a key part of my philosophy, is to use something called Session-RPE. So RPE, you should already know about given some of the resources that I put in the onboarding process, but it's just the rating of perceived exertion. It's your rating of intensity of a given exercise or a movement pattern at a given load to try to make sure that we're training close enough to failure or high enough intensity to get the adaptations that we want. So Session-RPE is just really a measure of the intensity of the session as a whole. Now things can get a little bit muddy trying to estimate how hard a session was on a whole, because if it sort of depends on when I ask you. If I have you do a really hard set as the last exercise of the session, and I ask you right after that, how hard would you rate the session as a whole, it can sort of skew your overall perception of the session based on the proximity to the harder or easier sets. That being said, we sort of accept that it's not a perfect metric, but it's one of the it's a way of tracking your overall workload, your perception of workload, and also how long objectively workouts are taking, and we can look to nudge this up over time or nudge it down. It's just something for us to track and control. Um, so I have this paper pulled up here that essentially is just talking about what I just said, just to reinforce that it's been studied. So it's a validated measure of approximating workload, even though it isn't perfect. And really, if we just scroll down, the question determining Session-RPE essentially just is, okay, I want you to rate how hard this session was, 0 to 10. And you see what these, I'd essentially present you this rating scale, and you're just going to sort of pick the ballpark. And then you're going to report how long it took you in minutes. And the Session-RPE number, just for your understanding, is not just, okay, it was a 7 out of 10 difficulty as a session, but the Session-RPE is 7 multiplied by, let's say it took you 10 minutes to do, just to make it easy math. That'd be 70. Okay, and that unit means nothing aside from it's a number that we can track and look to manipulate. Because if we're able to get Session-RPE up in a situation where we have to start with it really low, we can improve Session-RPE by either increasing the duration of the session and manipulating the workload that way, keeping the duration of the session relatively constant, and then increasing workload over time. This is also really important for me to make sure that the sessions are being performed in a reasonable amount of time, because I don't want them to take too long. So that's really the short explanation of Session-RPE. It's going to be put in a monitoring section for you to fill out at the end of each workout. And yeah, I think it's useful on my end. And if you want to discuss this anymore, we certainly can. But hopefully you find that useful.